Ghana there, South Africa ought not to touch a Ghanaian. They ought not to. A human okromo, you can say a and you can say lazy. It's a Jumani Mozambique, a Jumani Namibian, a Jumani Congolese, a Jumani Nigerian, a Jumani Ghanaian, a young minor jobber, a year labor, because they will not do it. Because the Ghanaian will go and hire a room and rent a room, apartment, and live in an apartment. South Africans are living in ghetto, in Soweto.
Okay.
It is Omunya Juma, Omun Person Baya Juma. Then the government now tells them that it is not the government that is not creating the jobs, but more jobs, South Africa, Brunei, or companies, Yomudian, unfair Juma, South Africa, Viano.
Okay.
Or Juma, Adiachawabo. Okay. It's a better Nigerian, or better Congolese, or better Biagani, Namanabi, in Zimbabwe, or better South African Sada. Look at some foolish, I'm sorry to use the word, funny visa agreement to be a new Muye. Or South Africa needs to be Kumha, or do airport, migration man in 90 days. Ultimately 90 days on the 90th day no Togo, no Akwadan, no Aflawo, no Asabe, they 90 days. They didn't grant us the same thing. They are using the system. Why can't we do the same thing? So they are claiming say, Obia Juma, Jobia, and your woman and Pejuma. That Paka is legal. When Mamani South African gets Okroma, for cantonments, South African gets Okroma. Find out. Okroma, Okroma paying for down than Dendia Omuari woman. Yeah, for airport. Omen days in this one. No, Mapi, I actually know a Sababi room. That's Ghana migration. How much will be?
There be.
Are they? Munkwame,
the Yentimi in Sianana, Yenya Befaswa, a baby.
Answer is no.
No,
nobody can solve the issue of South Africa. And then a xenophobic attack unleashed all the time on innocent African citizens. These countries, namely Ghana, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Mozambique, Congo, the other African countries. All these countries, we made what South Africa today, that they have a government called ANC government. Shamefully, very shamefully, the South African regime, the South Africa political offices under the government of ANC only used these boys to harass foreigners, to cover their inefficiencies, to cover their inabilities, to cover all the promises that all of us, you and I, hope we said, come Mandela out, 1990, come first black African president, 1994. Leading from 1994 till today, they have not done and operated even 5 to 10% of what the whites developed South Africa. Shamefully, into their frustration, they all the time use when an issue of unemployment comes to bear on the government. Then they go through the back line, then they go through behind and push these boys foolishly for them to unleash pressure on innocent people, including Ghanaians. Papa, anything. When Mandela was released from jail in 1990, at the age of 71, until 75, when he was in 1994, before he was the first president, the 5-year mandate, Mandela couldn't do much. Because at 27 years in jail. What did he do? He did his best. There was certain the institutions open up. There was nothing he could have done because of the apartheid system, any racial segregation. Check that he needed now to infuse the administrative and the system with the blacks. And 21 year developmental project, 21 year employment issue. What about Tama of Fihoe? Or in a 5-year term, 80 years, the man was tired. So he saluted South Africans. And don't forget, sir, the F.W. de Klerk, who ironically is one of the most peaceful presidents ever. I would break it down, abolish the apartheid. I will a whole backlash from the Western world, including the British, including the Hollands, including the almost Europeans and everybody. But the man wanted peace. He realized it was too much. And what he said. Mandela made him a vice president against the wish of even the white supremacist parties. Or your vice president from 1994 to 96, he had 2 vice presidents with Thabo Mbeki. So when he, after 2 years, the pressure from the whites in Bayer Mono and a crack, set aside, leaving Thabo Mbeki as the main vice president, called the deputy president of South Africa. Mandela freed Thabo Mbeki. How long did it take Just under 5 years. Just under 5 years now, Mandela Koyanan, double Mbeki regime, registered the first xenophobic attack on foreigners. Who are the foreigners? The first people they were killing was Mozambicans. Papa, let me tell you, you mentioned the international, what is the name? International relations expert. No, I'm a diplomatic consultant. So we have done practical diplomacy and diplomatic history of the world. Let me tell you, when ANC, the ANC, why did they have 3 offices? They were having offices, even in Ghana, they had a strategic hub. That's how they were calling their offices when South Africa Apartheid was chasing them. Now you have they had a strategic office. In Ghana, they had a strategic office. In no country than what? Mozambique. And they have what is called the targeted presence in Mozambique. They had a relationship with the Frelimo movement. At that time, Frelimo was also branded like ANC, so only a terrorist. By the West, by the South African apartheid system. The same thing as Zimbabwe, ZANU-PF. They were also branded as thieves and criminals, and also what? Because of the alliance with ANC. The same thing as SWAPO, Southwest African People's Organization, Sam Nujuma. They were also branded as criminals and terrorists with ANC. Because these were the countries. Now, South Africa, ANC, which then before then was South African Native National Congress. It wasn't ANC, it was a stand. While these parties established a political party that they could not keep in the Cape Town, teaming for office in town. Which country gave them an official visit, official office? And in Mozambique, Frelimo, when Samora Machel became the first president, Mozambique, what happened? Because of South Africa, because of ANC. Look at what they did to the man. They assassinated him. They assassinated him when Russians even wanted him not to step South Africa. He went there and they killed him because of how he allowed what the ANC to have an office, strategic office. And then in 1981, when Bota was there, they went to Mozambique, poor country at the time, vandalizing Maputo, They killed more than 200 people because they were looking for the South African ANC members who were holding themselves, housing themselves, also in South Africa, in Mozambique. Now, such a country, our first president called Samora Machel, under the time of Mandela Mugum, Walter Sisulu, Oliver Tambo, Rosanna, Litoli, all these people when they were even running around the world, because apartheid system was looking for them, like the Israeli Mossad looking for you to kill. Mozambique, South Africa, Mandela, they targeted Samora Machel and asked him, he should bring them out. One year, our Buzini, or South Africa, Lumumba province, our mountain. After our meeting with South Africa, they killed him. And then a man, Mandela, out of sympathy, the third wife, Samora Machel, because of what Mandela they valued. He valued what Samora Machel and the Mozambique people did for South Africa. He went to marry the widow of Samora Machel, even though he was too old to be anything with the woman. So I'm marrying you to give you the confidence and the comfort which your husband gave to us. Now, Papa, then the Kudu said, Mozambique be a first target. What about Zimbabwe? The ZANU-PF party of Robert Mugabe and co. At that time, the Southern Rhodesia, they gave South Africa, these ANC people, a seat, an office, and also another strategic hub. What about Namibia? That time, Paul Sam Nujuma, they were all running around because that time Namibia was part of South African colony. And then they had the political party. So the ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe, SWAPO in Namibia, and then Frelimo in Mozambique. All this, except Zambia, Lusaka, and I know my reserve, the frontline states. These are countries, South Africa, for such a xenophobic attacks, after they get their own, call it self-determination in black president.
Okay.
Now let's talk to Ghana. Ghana, Mandela, Winnie Mandela, Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, Albert, Dube, and all those. They use Ghana passport. They were using Ghana passport to travel around.
Now, when you use South Africa passport.
Who will give them? There were 3 acts in South Africa. They have what is called the Land Act. The Land Act did not allow any black man to own a land in South Africa. 87% of the entire country, land was only for whites and then other races, Indians.
Okay.
So blacks were not allowed. And they have what is called the Group Areas Act. The Group Areas Act also has to do with racial segregation. We a group we say passport. And then they had the Racism Act. Most of that one also, they were not allowed. They were qualified as a race. Into a woman around that time, they were described as race. It did not offer passport to him. So the ANC leaders didn't have passport. So they were traveling with Ghana passport. They were traveling with Nigeria passport. They were traveling with Mozambique passport. When Samuel Machel became the president, he gave all of them passports to enable them to travel. But after Mandela, them, Nasa Ghana, or volunteer, Monko GBC, Ghana, Monko Musomse. One GBC, in the 90s, in the 70s, in the 80s, they allocated 2-3 hours for South Africa only to play apartheid music, anti-apartheid music, war songs for the ANC. 2 hours across the African continent, Nigeria, Ghana, Benin, all the countries were just crying for them. And it was a command. I know me now. They fighting for the. I said the voices must be heard. One in it, UN. Ghana was the country that went to the UN General Assembly and declared a passport to go and cause Kunuto. Bantu's land. It was in our passport. Go and ask passport office. Mm-hmm. Ghana declared a protest, the first country in Africa, not to allow Ghanaian citizens to go there under the apartheid system. Whereas we maintain even the diplomatic relation. They were not allowing Ghanaians to go there. We didn't want to. It's a protest. And I say, you can't say country we. I did Ghana for in South Africa. 75 to 80% of Ghanaians were South Africa, even including graduates from Moho, except more medical fields. Omaka would be a hairdresser and when he needed
70% of Ghanaians are South Africa hairdresser no more.
Oh, yeah, money will be a hairdresser. Coach me everywhere. Home company bay. Company bay no more. Then came Nigerians. The Nigerians' accusation by the South African youth of the ANC tax, any debate. Omo mano a lot of our woman. And woman who said, you told Range Rover at the Ma Oba, and only woman Niger, or your business caba, South Africa man of a cocoa, yes, a tea-round camera. And the Nigerian men started spending money on them. Now, South Africa, you better watch a drinking spot, or no inside the whole day, or to Soweto, or no inside the whole day. But what the same about now, say my ukrum, Unyabi, and any that. So when the Nigerians came into the system, I started to be a shops. I didn't shop in Nigeria for phone shops. Yes, on the business of the phone shops. And Tadia and the man. How does that one take away from a job? I don't know. One of vandalizing Nigerians to the sense of about pregnant woman. They cut her stomach alive and put the baby and kill her. The Nigeria want to say, Buhari issued ultimatum and asked the South African diplomat to leave immediately. And the Nigerians were strict. They started vandalizing South African installations and then even the embassy. And the more Nigeria for attack. Ghana was not. We've been quiet. We've not been part. How can you fight with one Ghanaian over your girlfriend? How can a South African girl go to a Ghanaian saloon and claim say why did their party 3 days akosa about if they don't give them, that is what calls for the boys to come to vandalize and kill them. Is that sense? It's senseless. Look, South Africa, you don't know what?
Radio XYZ.
On the continent of Africa, South Africa and Ethiopia, they have the worst residential visa reforms and that's a visa status for foreigners. Very discriminative. And then very appetite now. The same appetite now. Racial segregation visa protocols. For South Africa, resident permit. This is the country in Africa or more than 20 types, 20 different kind of resident permits. The idea shoe shine. The idea room chancing. The idea hairdressing. The idea way. The idea skilled labor. The idea unskilled labor. The idea marriage. The idea to your friend is civil relations. Different, and all of them so expensive, and they make you look like just the same way the apartheid the whites treated them. It is a way of South African. We are Ghanaian, our South Africa. And here comes the African Union, your right of stay, and your right of work, and your right of residence. Ghana in South Africa, not for Sika today, so could be a business for her. They look at the stats and tell you, say, Yabama hairdresser certificate, that's a residence. It is residence, and every 6 months, be a papa now could get $1,000. This way they treat them. Who did it? Is that about, is that your friend, FD Clark, a butter, a pig butter, and a Italian? The ANC, Papa, ever since the Mandela left the scene, I've said that he couldn't have done any development because of the tiredness and the fatigue. And because of the system, the institutions, that's what fix it.
And in a protest, na cost no, and Tiasiana South Africa for our Woni, Anabwa Pio.
And I'm sure that whenever they are confronted, the government of ANC since Thabo Mbeki, Jacob Zuma, Cyril Ramaphosa, who had been also used Ghana passport before, when they are confronted by the youth, because a Juma no Okromon, you can't say you are comfort, and you can't say you lazy. It's a Jumani Mozambique, a Jumani Namibia, a Jumani Congolese, a Jumani Nigerian, a Jumani Ghanaian, a minor jobber, a labor, because they will not do it. Because the Ghanaian will go and hire a room and rent a room, apartment, and live in an apartment. South Africans are living in ghetto, in Soweto.
Okay.
It is Juma, Juma. Then the government now tells them that it is not the government that is not creating the jobs, but more jobs, South Africa, Brunei, or companies, unfair Juma, South Africa,
okay.
Or Juma, Adiachawabo,
okay.
And so better Nigerian, or better Congolese, or better Biagan, Namanabi, and Zimbabwe, or better South African, Sadak, only a Sadak nation to ECOWAS, in Zambia, Timko Juma. You need to Namibia, Timko Juma, Mozambique, Juma. So they are claiming that Odia Juma, Jobian, woman, and Pejuma. So therefore, ANC regime shamefully, because they are underperforming, they push these boys to create a political story.
Nessa Akata Omu inability so.
It is like that because since Mandela left the scene, since 1994, 32 years up to today, the total output input are black African president, ANC government, and they are called South Africa developmental input up to put everything together. It's not up to 7%.
Nessa can South Africa develop say na no
Bakukra including the airport, Bakukra no ANC na the road the crack me and South Road Nana. They develop the whole country. There's a whole road network.
There's a bad leadership in Africa syndrome na account with that.
And yes, account with they are bad. And you see why sometimes Africa would deserve to be slaved. I'm sorry. Because of some of these things. Our president was at the podium trying to push a resolution. But this is where we have to go. This resolution must be seen in our home in Africa. Ethiopia, under the House of the African Union. Call Ethiopia not cover the visa regime. For who compare resident permit to Ethiopia. The West in Africa. And you want to hear the headquarters of Addis Ababa, OAU. And then Omaka. Have you heard the African Union will be in Anaka, South Africa for me? Don't they know what the South Africans are doing? How long and how many times have any ANC government taken the bold step, telling the police that you can't allow this? Anytime police will be involved, women started the route. How many times Nomco Ghanaian neighborhood, the airport area there, I'm called reading for you, police for judging Ghana for television.
Radio XYZ.
Nessa, the Omu ye na say one, no adwuma na ye de mana onye wonko. Inti employer no kra wonfa no ofa foreign na so abue.
Because Omu no hono. South Africa ni be me bia na dwene no orientation say e se kromo ni ba na ye. When to Omu blacks no, e man na ye adwuma.
Okay.
South African girls na ye adwuma. Omu de kitchen bibia wo be show me ye adwuma. Ogeni sika na obepon no nwure no obepon no na be ma no susu gina gate wo oba be fa na kofi gana no pa ko gana no nwure no abefa no because wo man sabi that is what they know wo ni wo bia they were enslaved they were enslaved oni ba bia enti ba ma na wo kroma petesini no sabi ono an wo fa no enti na no manya abati wo hu sem di gana ni achi a mi to shu ma hu sem di gana ni achi a yan kwan kwati can you imagine? Are you aware that South Africa, the only black country in Africa, only native citizens, only the food, only native food. You fufu, you are abulema, you are deba, you are kodale. South Africa said you are ganum. How about for the say woman to my bibia? And the only thing they know is only sugar related.
Okay.
And no sugar, and now your friends saying bread in this Anyamana. Some South Africa native food. They be all. But the woman Nigeria, you have to know what I say. When you South African, you call no my baby. Now I hear a goosey, no I hear a back. Yes, he be at a few moments. Papa better than walk back.
What ya can so?
Better than walk back.
Radio XYZ.
On too quiet that South Africa needs me your passport. Nigeria need your passport $100. So man, I did you a chat ticket at the Naba Abuja. One year play with that. Papa better not change that.
A fly in the call.
That Paka is legal. When how many South African gets Oklahoma? For cantonments. For South African gets Oklahoma. Find out.
Yeah. Okay. But equal reaction and yes solution to this. Say South Africa for be a Ghana nibi a harassing or no one tibia Nigeria nibi swedra or no so be harassing a crew. No.
Nigeria do it to my Ghana. That is not our style. But the Ghana style of the diplomatic approach is what is for me. I'll say is very poor. And honorable Okuja to my good friend Samuel, if you're listening or anybody listening, tell him that the approach is too slow. They should let the South African mission. They should the South African embassy take this using this particular because Ghana there, South Africa ought not to touch a Ghanaian. They ought not to. Look at some foolish. I'm sorry to use the word. Funny visa agreement to be a new although South Africa needs to be Kumha. Odu airport immigration man in 90 days. Ultimately 90 days on the 90th day no Togo. No akwadan no afla, no asabe be 90 days. They didn't grant us the same thing. They did not grant the same thing. Think Ghanaian or South Africa and what team 90 days. 90 days in the Beswan. Ultimately run Namibia visa free. No akwadan who 2 days no asabe no abeji 90 days and kwa the baby. South Africa cumulative 90 days per annum. What does it mean? Diplomatically, the Ghana Minister of Foreign Affairs 2 years ago, they didn't understand.
No, sir. I don't know here. No.
Who here no them?
Sepedi or no visa now granted. The nation said,
it's reciprocal.
Radio XYZ.
Visa waiver is the same thing.
Okay.
Either waiver or no waiver. Either visa free or no visa free. What I've given you, give me back. That is what diplomacy talks about. And the mama visa free for 90 days. Every 90 days, South African citizen can come and spend in Ghana 90 days. So person go beyond the 90 days. Regularize your resident permit and now regularize your extension. That is the international law. The year the end year, so because South Africa, let me do 20 days, sir. No system I record. We do 1 month, no system I record. Into within a year, I mean 90 days, sir. I'm not allowed to enter there again unless I now go to the embassy to apply for visa. What kind of agreement is that? How would they respect you?
Sesia yekase kra no man bi ti se Zambia ne afoforo Barbados mo ne ye approve free visa a mo no bo mi ya o ma so betimi aba Ghana.
Papa Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Dominica, Antigua and Bermuda, Texas and Caicos, how do you call it? Jamaica, and then Dominican Republic, Dominica, Antilles, Martinique, Française, Martinique, Holland. All those countries except Dominica Republic. I already any Texas and Caicos in some few countries. You know, there's a free pact for several years since independence.
Okay.
You don't know, including Jamaica.
Radio.
The only country of free move are the island in near Cuba. But when you go to even the South Pacific, Vanuatu, Fiji, Papua New Guinea, and we also have the same visa. We are black. And we are part and parcel of the ANC, the ACP, African Caribbean Pacific Forum, 30 block of the black nations of the world. We're supposed not to travel there and be taking visas here or visas there.
Okay.
That is what we have to resolve.
Okay. This is here the ekosui. Say ano brasimpa ye ohwa ebesaba. South Africa juma abayne juma so ye and now we ensure san enema fu we say
police state. They have one of the best police system, communication. Their police is based on the ideals of the British and then the Holland police system, and then a part of India. Their network is very strong. It's not different from European police. They know where every bad boy stays. They know how all the fights originate. They know when they originate. Papa, demonstration, a protest to unleash pressure or to kill aliens in your country does not start just one time. No, when you nipa 1 million euro. No, the bad boys will start from the downtown, Johannesburg, and when they are coming, it is a formation. Where is the South African police? When they actually videos, you know, when they now become a large, none of them. They are all junkies. They are all criminals. They are all bad boys. Papa now, okwa take obi so adwuma ni phone na okwa akwaji
there be senior okwa ebia we okofa niema store ni be bia mu niema nyina
the ten say police poji how no ma ko bi fie ya bo Ghana for ya bo Nigeria for no ma so Outrage ne pa me no no so Outrage no me dey call is it not so insane and then the police for near wo mu so it is the breach one breach the fault of ANC and the pretenses of ANC
Radio,
and then Ashahan of ANC and the matter so they don't give any hood, they don't care about anybody. And anytime Jacob Zuma time, when you 2 times 3, Ramaphosa, this is the 3rd time, shamefully, but he called himself a black elite. What has he done to stop this issue?
Okay.
Sarah, what has he done to stop this issue? So Ghana, please, your president, your excellency, you went, and you was able to push for resolution which has never been done in the world before. This is the fight for you, President Mahama. This is the fight. This is what you have to call South African ambassador to order. Don't leave it with Tony or Nabukujetu. It's a presidential affair. For him to order. But Ghana has helped you before. Without Ghana, ANC wouldn't have been maybe where they are. Without Mozambique, they wouldn't have been there. Without Zimbabwe, they wouldn't have been there. So if we are speaking at the international forum, talking about recognition of the slave trade, there should be a recognition of South Africa apartheid. How we fought against that one. There should be a recognition by ANC how they are treating the African nationals. This is what we are talking about.
Okay. Sani enquire President Mahama nkwa other Africa countries now almost social citizens
leave them. Nobody deals with nobody. They don't want Gabon countries. I've been a diplomatic advisor to Gabonese President Odimba. Asked me Honorable Serge, who was the Ghana foreign minister. I've been the president of he didn't want to do anything. He told was Gabonese. What about South Africa? We have a problem. Deal with it.
Okay.
Even Paubia, the old man, he told Cameroonians, because a lot of Cameroonians in South Africa, Bloemfontein area, and Limpopo area. He told them, so you know, issue of South Africa, deal with it. Cameroon will not come to their aid. And that's sorry to use this reference that they behave animalistically. That's the term of Paubia used at the time when they also attacked Cameroonians. Okay. Which African country has not spoken and cried at the African Union and their friends there, all our forums? Either ECOWAS, either SADC, either AEC, either the Maghreb Union, either the Central African Union. Which one of them has not protested their appetite? How do you treat their citizens like that? It's a global village. South African gets on them chroma, resident permit to be in the chroma. Yeah, for airport. Days in this one, no mapi, additional Asababi room. That's Ghana migration. How much will be?
There be.
They are using the system. Why can't we do the same thing? To the extent, say, 2 years ago, before Sumba visa waiver, try useless visa free now near one. They introduced a visa, say Ghana need to across South Africa. Move airport, have your bank statement. Now imagine, say what's not playing. Now I call you South Africa. You only need 3 hours. Flight next year, 5. 3 o'clock, we're Ghana, I say 2 o'clock. Papa, now it's the airport. Now we can know Echo Bank statement now. Now South African mind, ANC mind, young fair Echo Bank, now manager, phone ban at bedside, the Nipa 240 passenger go play. What the will be a bank, SCK, and there's one woman. It's not foolishness.
Then say ANC, say Malima di Guamuswa, I know Dima
Radio XYZ.
Papa, he's a Pan Africanist, and he knows the country that supported. He has never been in support of any of the xenophobic attacks.
Okay.
He's never been in support. Obia Mijin Woyao, Jacob Zuma, Obia Mijin Woyao, and Thabo Mbeki. Because you Thabo Mbeki under President Kufuor stand, Olusegun Obasanjo stand, Muammar al-Gaddafi stand, Festus Mogae, any other African president. You Thabo Mbeki, you were part and parcel of the countries that signed for the African free entry. Right of living, right of business. Under his watch,
Radio
5 years,
XYZ.
just a year after Nelson Mandela, they started experiencing this. What about Jacob Zuma, who was a Zulu fighter, who was an ANC fighter? Running around. You were in exile over years in Mozambique. Portuguese, but you are not Portuguese. You are South African. Why did you live? Because you are living out there. Mandela Portuguese because of their overstaying there. But they're looking at South Africa, home enemy, any Zimbabweans, home enemy, any Namibians, home enemy, any Lusaka boys. Are they? So please, I know someone says you will be a bank of food. If they don't have the history, they should come for the history.
That's right. right eso moba na recommendation bi ho na e betu abeboa eno susu yetimi age aka one pay
for them to take they almost ye niabre they are near coaching. What is diplomacy? Diplomacy is black coat. Honorable could just to black coat, white shirt, blue tie or black tie or red tie. Diplomacy, white shirt or black socks, nice. Does it solve the problem? No. You have to let them feel that Ghana is angry. Expel your embassy. Call your Ghanaian diplomat back. Call the Ghanaian diplomat back for them to feel their presence. They say, country not that will force them to work. That's how many counterpart Russia. Diplomacy is about it's a team party.
But finally, my question in chat say, EBN South Africa who say we're big boss and a big boy, you know, in here any Africa country to survive, and for that matter, where you draw, where embassy, whatever, one faho, Ebia, say baby, Maduna.
Tabasma work in Japan, Switzerland, or no crown or no one could be to the next 300 years. Switzerland questioning diplomatic relations. United States, only the world's most biggest indispensable nation, I was one of the world's richest nation, or allow a country, narrow island of 5,000 citizens, or any diplomatic relations. That question doesn't even arise. It does stop there. Every country needs another country. Do you know how many South African companies are here? As we speak, major South African companies right now, Ghana so soon for a particular put embargo on them.
Okay,
hold on there. Germany will not be, Turkish will not be, America will not be. America Huawei. Look at what they did to Huawei. They brought them out block CEO in the name of what? And then Huawei because Huawei acceleration and they had the woman stop Huawei and iPhone. And then your friend is and Goma may popular.
Okay.
Do you understand me? If the South African companies now are really mining companies, if it's South African waha.
Okay.
Winning industrial companies waha, industries waha. So you should call them to order. Call the ambassador to order. Call the Ghana embassy to come back and take a protest and open your eyes and let them know that also so as anti-force in Tezgoko will be a new. So you should also spit the blood out. And yet they will not stop it. The police are aware. The government must speak to the boys. They must protect the citizens. So if you come and when you resident permit, it does not make the person a criminal object. No.
Okay.
It's against the international law. And it's against the international migration law. It's against the IMO.